CVM TV and live Jamaica Premier League action on a Monday night. A match made in heaven. We call it Monday Match Night. Catch all the heart-pounding JPL Monday night action from now until the end of the season on CVM TV's Monday Match Night. Matchday Mondays at 7:45 p.m. with rebroadcast Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Nothing else can quite match up. Monday Match Night, powered by Sunshine Snacks and ABC Electrical.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Our days get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at noon for Friday, January 10, 2025. I'm Ramon Gordon. Thank you so much for joining us. Jamaica's education sector continues its recovery following Hurricane Beryl, with the National Education Trust NET reporting significant progress in repairing damaged schools. Repairs have been completed at 87 institutions that were severely impacted during the storm in July 2024. Work is also advancing at 17 schools with completion rates ranging from 70 to 97%, while construction is ongoing at 7 others. The damage assessment revealed that 364 schools were affected at over $4 billion. Of these, 111 were classified as Priority 1 due to severe damage. The Education Ministry received $2.5 billion from the Cabinet for emergency repairs. Among the schools still under repair: Irons Mountain Primary, St. Anne; Mount Hannah Primary, Hanover; Merlin Otti High, also in Hanover; Bull Savannah Primary and Infant School in St. Elizabeth. And false alarm. Reports of a protest against Spanish Town Mayor Norman Scott's bid as the People's National Party's Southeast St. Elizabeth candidate have been dismissed by party officials. Adrian Williams reports.
So they don't want no Spanish Town man in a hit, master. I don't know what the cause of it, but at this me wake up, see.
This TikTok video stirred conversations about the acceptance of People's National Party candidate for Southeast St. Elizabeth, Norman Scott. PNP councillor for the Myersville division in St. Elizabeth, Leighton Smith, says this is coordinated political mischief by the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP.
We got information that the demonstration started after 4 this morning by a known activist of the Jamaica Labour Party. I don't want to call any name now. I'm getting more information that he was the one here who was organizing the demonstration. Man passed him after 4 this morning, cutting the trees and lighting the fire. And at the same time, he said send videos to somebody in Red Bank showing them of the demonstration. And the person said to them, say, but idiot, how no demonstration? So who out there as the PNP that plant card, they say they don't want him and who they want.
The councillor believes that Scott has been getting tremendous support from the people in the area, which has provided much discomfort for the JLP. He says this incident will not negatively impact the party.
It will not affect the PNP none at all. We're only going to turn it up a notch and just show them that Norman Scott is here to stay and he won't be going anywhere. Because we're no fool, Jamaica is no fool. If it was a demonstration to say they don't want Norman Scott, the people would be there with platform which showing placard that they don't want Norman Scott and who they want.
Scott assumed the MP candidate role, succeeding PNP's Ian Stevenson, who was the previous standard bearer. The Jamaica Labour Party's Franklin Witter currently holds the seat. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
The Trelawny Municipal Corporation is set to launch a new initiative to recover outstanding fees across the parish. Falmouth Mayor Colin Gager made the announcement during the corporation's meeting on Thursday.
We'll be undertaking an enforcement drive across the parish to collect outstanding revenues. We will be collecting outstanding fees and serving the necessary notices in order to have compliance where regulations and revenue is concerned. We also intend to increase our visibility across the parish as we intend to have monthly divisional meetings. And councillors, we will meet and discuss and we'll tell you how we intend to do that. We will be going from division to division.
And in yesterday's monthly meeting of the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation, Councillor Hubert Williams of the White Horses Division criticized the accounting methods used to track the quantity of garbage collected from the parish's dump site.
Government can't quantify garbage or any material by loads. That is a real robbery. And I want to make that clear today. You can measure when you go to school. Anybody will go to school in this room, I've been over all of those. We have never quantified anything by loads. Mathematics cannot be done by loads. I want to hear tons, cubic yard, something like that. The unit of measurement is wrong because that setup is somebody repart the system. So we need to get that straight before the thing even start. Because the last time, when them say 400 load will move out of the place, I don't think 40 load move out. I'm going to set up on the record this morning. So, I never hear a government contract because, let me look at it this way. There's some trucks that carry bigger body size than some. So there's nothing consistent or standard about the word load.
Stay tuned, our discussion segment is next.
Confident that you are the legal owner of your property? Take action to secure your property ownership. Get a registered certificate of title and become the legal owner of your property. To register your property and obtain a certificate of title, you will need to provide a tax registration number (TRN), a valid government-issued identification, a survey diagram, documentation to prove ownership, up-to-date property tax certificate, the names, addresses, and occupations of 2 neighbors over the age of 50 who are not family members and can give a declaration on your behalf, proof that you have been in open, undisturbed, and undisputed possession of the property for 12 years or more. For further information on registering your property and obtaining a certificate of title, contact the National Land Agency at 876-750-5263 or 876-946-5263. Email asknla@nla.gov.jm or message us at WhatsApp at 876-418-5089. The National Land Agency. One agency, one goal to serve you better.
And get creative with your floors, walls, and all the spaces in between. Our knowledgeable sales consultants are happy to help create your beautiful finish with the latest designs in first quality porcelain, wood look, vinyl, mosaics, natural stones, and countertops. At Creative, you will get every tile you need for your residential or commercial projects. Creative Building Finishes, your one-stop shop for everything tiles. Visit our showroom at 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get creative.
Welcome back. It's time for our discussion segment. The proposed close-in age exception for sexual offences has sparked heated debate locally. The idea is to ensure young people close in age who engage in consensual sexual relationships aren't criminalized, while still protecting child victims and holding offenders accountable. But how can we balance these concerns? To break it down, we're joined by Priscilla Duhaney, spokesperson for Hear the Children's Cry, and Mikkel Jackson from Jamaicans for Justice. Welcome again to you both.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to my co-guest, if you will.
Great. Mikkel, let's kick things off with you. What's your view on the exception, and does it strike the right balance, you say?
Absolutely not. The call that is being made by the Office of the Children's Advocate is a call that Jamaicans for Justice has also made in the past, and one that we will continue to make, that we should decriminalize the consensual sex between minors and look at holistic, comprehensive sexual education and social interventions that address this reality. Focus on ensuring that our young people are aware about sexually transmitted infections, the risk of early teenagers for their bodies, what that means for their lifelong outcomes. That is what we should be focusing on, so that we can ensure that we're not making criminals of our children, but responding to a problem in a comprehensive way that will also mitigate against some of the social ills that we're seeing in society today. But it doesn't make sense to lock them up.
Got it. Priscilla, do you share Mikkel's perspective, or are you of a different opinion?
Well, thank you. We do share the similar perspective. We believe there must be a balancing act. On the other hand, we believe that while children are going to be children, you will have several children. And what happens is that you can't always apply the same methodologies for all the children that you have. Some may respond successfully to gentle parenting, while others may respond when you don't spare the rod and spoil the child. So we are looking at we are taking a more tiered approach that we think should be done, that you look on it from a case-by-case basis. And even though we believe that social intervention is important and can be effective, we are also thinking that there is not when you think about the nature of sexual offenses and the impact that it can have, it's not something that you can take for granted or take lightly and just pardon with just social intervention measures. There are times and circumstances that you may have to pull out something more stringent.
I see, Priscilla. Are you, for clarity, saying that you're in support of the initiative or opposed to it? Just for clarity.
We believe that there must be a balance. So we don't believe in decriminalizing it for sure, but we do believe you can apply different methods at the same time.
All right. Mikkel, a key concern I get to understand is accountability. How can the justice system ensure young offenders in consensual cases are handled fairly?
You know, I think one of the concern I hear, even listening to Priscilla, and I hope I'm not misunderstanding, because I'm privy to also the press release and I've heard the other perspectives of the public, is that I think at times we may be conflating what the word victim means. Because the law, as it already stands, has several provisions, and I think we have to separate when we're having forced sex, which is sexual assault and rape, which the law is very clear. So if a child forces another child to have sexual relations, the law already deals with that. If you have a situation where a person in the position of authority, in the position of power, for example, a pastor, a teacher, the law actually puts provisions in place where that individual who has sex with someone who is a minor can get up to life imprisonment. What JFJ and the Children's Advocate is talking about now, you're talking about two 15-year-old, a boyfriend and girlfriend who have sex with each other, who have normal feelings that we have to teach them how to control those feelings. I wanted to put in perspective, what does it serve to have those children brought before an adversarial court system that will not only affect them negatively, because accountability cannot only be viewed as punitive. Accountability is the right response so that our
Priscilla.
children can do better and be better. But the last point I want to touch on before we move on, when you have these matters going before the courts, you have what you call court backlog. There's an impact on the justice system. So to those women who are raped, who can't have their day in court, you need to ask yourselves why. Because we're there adjudicating matters that could have been dealt with appropriate social interventions.
Priscilla, what do you make of that assessment? And also, you said that you don't support decriminalizing close in age consensual sexual relations. So what sanctions do you suggest should apply in these cases?
All right, so thank you. So what we're saying actually is that, first of all, let me just respond. So while I hear my friend Mikhail stating all the ills and what can be done and how successful social intervention can be, what we do agree, and as I said before, however, what I don't want is that we are pardoning experimenting. So, because what we need to understand is while there are two 15-year-olds, while they might have true feelings, the results, the consequences of those feelings still flow. Those consequences may include STDs, those consequences may include teenage pregnancies.
Surely,
and of course,
surely. But the answer to that certainly can't be criminalizations, certainly, right?
Right, but we also don't want to take it for granted that sexual your innocence is taken from you, and for you to consent to it, you don't really have the authority to be consenting under the particular age. Now, what we're simply saying as well is that in the event, sometimes there may be, based on the circumstances, we want you to have sometimes suspended sentences, community services. We are looking at maybe managing you in terms of counseling, yes, sessions, church involvement, and trying to put things in place. But you may have circumstances that someone may have to be incarcerated even for a short time, and also allowing them somewhat of a shorter period for an expungement, for them to understand the seriousness of their actions.
Ms. Jackson, let me carry you back in. You've heard what Priscilla has had to say about how these sort of cases should be handled. I want a response to that pointedly, but she also brought up something that's also very important. She said that children under the age of 16 cannot consent anyways, so there should be severe sanctions for offenders. Should or will this conversation, you think, reopen the conversation of probably re-examining the age of consent in Jamaica?
No, I don't think the age of consent needs to change. And I think collectively we have failed our nation's children, because I think we're having conversations about the branch of the tree rather than the root causes of the issue. When you're not having appropriate sexual education, and when people would naturally have feelings based on normal hormonal changes, the answer can't be to lock them up even for a short period of time, because social interventions also mean that you teach them, you counsel them, you do community service with them. But again, the question is, who will it serve if a 15-year-old is brought before the courts and could be imprisoned? And let me say this. While the law as it currently stands is gender neutral, where both boy and girl could be charged, what we're seeing happening, that it's our boy children that are being brought before the courts. So I want us to ask ourselves, how is that helping our children to grow, to learn, to be the better version of themselves? All of the social interventions that have just been articulated by my colleague are things that we can do without criminalizing our children. Deal with the issue of comprehensive sexual education. I put it to you and to the listeners. When I look at the child diversion program, JFJ did an analysis based on data. A significant portion of the children who are being diverted and the matters for which they're being diverted seems to be girlfriend and boyfriend sex. So we are wasting state resources that could have otherwise been allocated to children who could have been at risk of gang involvement, those who are at risk of bringing the illegal firearms to schools and so on, rather than looking at how we strengthen the health and family life and education program to ensure that our children are aware of the normal feelings that they will have. But again, the responsibility of knowing that though these are normal feelings, you have to learn how to handle them because you're at risk of HIV transmission, you're at risk of teenage pregnancy. That is the intervention that JFT is asking for.
Now, for schools, families and communities, you've said it, Ms. Jackson, we haven't addressed the root causes. We're not having the comprehensive conversations we ought to be having about sex education. So the final question to you both, what are the next steps in addressing this critical issue? We'll start with you, Ms. Jackson, and